While I was running around Europa, I noticed that Variks' shelter is in pretty bad shape. And he leaves the door open all day long. I mean, Variks, it's colder than Bungie out there. You gotta keep that shut, man. But all this got me thinking, does Variks' shelter really work? To be able to tell if his shelter works or not, we're gonna need to know what he needs. So here's a list. Air conditioning, insulation, plumbing, electricity, food, fuel, interplanetary communications, local connections, and reinforced walls and windows. Should be pretty easy, and a whole lot funner than Crucible. And so I searched, looking at every pipe and every wire and every little scrap of text. I've always enjoyed looking around at inconsequential objects and details, wondering what they're supposed to do. And this time around, I found some pretty surprising things that really helped to tell this building's story. Or maybe I just wasted a bunch of my time. I guess that's for you to decide. Alright, let's see how Variks does. First off is the air conditioning. Europa is one of Jupiter's moons, and it's very cold. It sits around -200 to -300 degrees Fahrenheit, so a heater is probably a good idea. While I wasn't able to find an actual air conditioner, other than this little one, I did find air ducts that carry the air. I was never really expecting to find an air conditioner unit, so it came as a total surprise when I found this. VA40. Probably just sci-fi nonsense. I find all kinds of codes like this. They almost never yield anything when I look them up. But after only a little bit of searching, I found a page for an air conditioner. And get this, it's specifically designed for severe and hazardous environments. It's even explosion-proof. One of the listed applications is computer and control rooms, just like Variks's. You can see the vents on the floor and ceiling for the warm air to come through. Alright, AC? Check. Who would have thought they would pay that much attention to detail? Now if they just pay a little more attention to fun, insulation should be easier. You can see it between the walls and in the doorway. And you can get a better idea of how it's built into the walls by looking at this destroyed portion of the building. Another check for insulation. Next is plumbing, and there isn't much to go on here, but here's what I've gathered. I found these two big tanks that are attached to a sort of room or chamber. I'm assuming this is his water supply, sending water to sinks, toilets, showers, etc. And there's bound to be a few bathrooms here. That's about as much as I can do to check his plumbing, but it seems like he's all good. Check. Next is electricity. Now, it's easy to assume he's using some sort of crazy sci-fi energy. Okay, sure, but what kind of crazy sci-fi energy? He's obviously not using a diesel generator or solar panels. It's something that we don't have in real life. So what is it? I was stuck on this until I went over to the enormous Braytech facility in search of answers. I've always loved the look of this place. It's so clean and futuristic, and it's also massive. The amount of energy required to power this building, if you even want to call it that, would be unimaginable. That's when I realized they must have their own massive power plant deep down powering this whole thing. And odds are, it's nuclear. Nuclear power plants today generate energy through nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is the splitting of atoms, which releases energy. But nuclear fission is old news for people in Destiny. They generate power through nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion is the fusing together of atoms, which releases 4 times more energy than fission. It's also how fusion rifles work. Today we are trying to achieve this, not fusion rifles, but power plants that use nuclear fusion. There could be a power line running underground from the power plant to the satellite complex that Variks lives in, or maybe this little complex has its own tiny nuclear fusion generator. It's certainly not impossible since they can cram one into a gun. Now sure, the cost of running a nuclear fusion reactor 24/7 might be pretty high, but at least he doesn't play Destiny. Electricity? Check. What next? Food. He probably just has food. Look, that's food. There's a few other rooms, they're probably full of food. Check. But wait, what if he runs out of food? And what if he runs out of fuel as well? Luckily, I found the answer to those 2 requirements with the answer to a different requirement. Local connections. And also, Beyond Light campaign spoilers, just a warning. Mostly just cutscenes and stuff. If you want to skip them, here's the timestamp. Variks came to Europa to help Aramis with the House Salvation. She sought the Dark Pyramid that had landed there. It's what brought everybody there, basically. And then she got stasis, and Variks was so upset with her ruining PvP that he left her side. And then, spoiler alert, you kill her. Who could have seen that coming? After this, Variks decides to stay on Europa and help out the Fallen that had also left her side. So basically, Variks has a bunch of Fallen buddies to help him out with stuff. All the Fallen I run into don't seem to care that I'm friends with Variks, but it's safe to assume the ones he helps would help him with food and fuel for his nuclear fusion generator. And that also brings us to transportation. What if he needs to get to some kind of a meeting with this guy? Well, he could certainly just steal one of the thousands of sparrows lying around outside, or he could call up his friends and ask for a pike, or he could just hop on their skiff. never seems to work for me. Wow, those local connections are turning out to be really useful. That's 4 items crossed off at once. We've only got a couple left. The first of which is Interplanetary Communications, which is just talking to people on different planets. I just wanted a big word for the intro bit. Leave me alone. Now you might be ready to go and say, isn't this building designed for communication? What about the giant satellite dish? Look at it. It's falling apart. In fact, it already has. The antenna is battered and frozen, half of the building is down there, and it's meant to be operated by like dozens of people who all know what they're doing. And even if it was repaired and he had a bunch of his buddies help him and they just knew how to operate it, it is a horrible means of getting help quickly. Let me explain. One challenge that satellite dishes face here on Earth is the fact that if Earth is faced away from the satellite that it is trying to contact, you just have to wait until you're turned the right way. NASA's Deep Space Network, or DSN, is capable of having constant contact with satellites since they have 3 different locations around Earth that complement each other. But keep in mind, Europa is a moon, Jupiter's moon, or one of them, which means that Jupiter is going to block its view a whole lot of the time. But Jupiter has 79 moons. That's a whole lot more specs blocking the dish's signal. Variks is insane if he thinks he can operate that, but I don't think he has any intention of doing so. See, during missions and stuff, you're always being fed an uninteresting monologue by some predictable NPC, and most of the time you're several planets away from Earth. So clearly there is a reliable way to talk to someone across the system, and that's all Variks really needs. And for those wondering if communication can be compacted so much, why even have a massive satellite dish? Well, the satellite dish might be able to send a higher quantity and quality of data than the walkie-talkie. So communications? Check. Now all he needs are some sturdy walls. Now, yes, half of the building did get devoured by a rapidly forming chasm. And yes, the other half is sat right next to that same chasm. Luckily though, there are these handles on the roof which you could use to carry the building to a better place. The old Alaskan bullworm technique. But this chasm aside, the steel plating seems to be doing fine so far. There are some pretty impressive glasses, like types of glass today, in terms of durability and insulation. So it isn't a stretch to say this window could resist the cold as well as a snowstorm. Variks, you did it. You're gonna be fine. You'll be able to sit in that cozy little bunker until Bungie suddenly casts you into the content vault and makes us pay your ransom. Sure, there are some things he could work on, but he's actually got a pretty darn good setup going here. I would comment more on him leaving the door open all day, but it's pretty much always full of sparrows, so they should help to insulate the room. I really enjoyed making this video. I did like 17 times more research than I needed since I didn't really know where it was going at first. I even started to make this 3D model that I was going to use for thermal diagrams for insulation and stuff. I looked way into Antarctic research and Destiny lore and all kinds of things that didn't get brought up at all. Not to mention me re-scripting the video like halfway through editing the last one. But I think it helped to know that stuff, even if it wasn't directly implemented in the video. I'll hopefully be a little smarter with my time in the next video though. I want to make sure that I can come out with these consistently and in a reasonable time frame. If you look around on my channel right now, you might notice that my other videos are nothing like this one, and they're honestly not that great. In fact, I have a whole public playlist full of my absolutely horrible videos that I didn't want to have directly on my main page. This video is a little different because it's the first one I actually really had fun making, so I was able to work on it for so much longer and still be excited about it. Anyways, I just thought I'd let anyone still watching know that this is the kind of video I'll be uploading from now on. And of course, let me know if I'm wrong about anything or if I missed something. Thanks, take care.